I'm trying to remember how I decided to make chapter 2.5 for this video essay. Actually, I'm not. I'll cut out the trying to remember shtick for this one, because this chapter's different, because I didn't plan for it. I'd actually mapped out the series in 3 parts, but then something happened. I was showing a friend a draft of chapter 2 to get feedback when we came to a certain point in that version of the video. And I realized Kaveh talking to the camera does evoke the beginning of Annie Hall.
It's an old joke.
No. I'm gonna stop this.
Oh, is it that bad?
No, but I just don't want to see Woody Allen.
Oh, but it's a short bit. It'll be done in a few minutes. It's fine.
It doesn't matter. I made a promise to myself long ago that I wouldn't waste my time engaging with the work of monsters like this. So I'm out. So can we move to the next part?
My friend had a point here. Showing Woody Allen in a video essay is a lot different than writing about him. You can't really skip forward the same way that you can when you're reading, and you have to deal with his image and his voice and the emotions that evokes. So I cut Woody Allen from chapter 2, and I cast my friend Chris to play my other friend who didn't even want to be identified or appear in a video that featured Woody Allen. But I thought there was enough interesting stuff in that section that I still wanted to include it in this series, so I took advantage of the structure of this video essay to create this in-between chapter 2.5, both to consider the links between Kaveh and Woody and to discuss the whole issue of engaging with the work of monsters. If you don't want to watch it, it's fine. Feel free to stop now, skip ahead to chapter 3. But if you're interested and you want to engage in this little aside, here's the segment about Woody Allen from chapter 2. But I don't think I'm much like Kaveh, so maybe both of us reminded them of someone else. So does Kaveh remind you of any other filmmakers or people in movies?
You know, I think Woody Allen.
It reminds me of Woody Allen.
What's the connection in your mind?
I mean, the connection I feel like is that, first of all, them as a cultural figure. Second of all, how they figure in their own work and how like autofic. But the Kaveh is like, I guess it's hard to call it autofic.
It's autofact.
Autofact.
The late critic Mike Bohm best captured this parallel.
Kaveh Zahidi, an independent filmmaker whose fans are few but passionate, can be summarized most simply as the Woody Allen of some parallel cinematic universe in which being awkward, funny, highly intelligent, and erotically confessional gets you almost nowhere.
Yeah. I think of my own neuroticisms in that sense too, and how it gets me nowhere.
So I don't think I'm much like Woody Allen either, but Annie Hall is one of my favorite films. And I realized Kaveh talking to the camera does evoke the beginning of Annie Hall.
There's an old joke. 2 elderly women are at a Catskill Mountain resort, and one of them says, "Boy, the food at this place is really terrible." The other one says, "Yeah, I know, and such small portions."
And that reminded me of an old story about the film. The film was initially a 2.5-hour exploration of a middle-aged man wandering through all these moments of his life, trying to make sense of it all.
I keep sifting the pieces of the relationship through my mind and examining my life and trying to figure out where did the screw-up come.
It was originally called anhedonia, which means the inability to feel pleasure.
Lately, the strangest things have been going through my mind because I turned 40, and I guess I'm going through a life crisis.
But Woody Allen and his editor, Ralph Rosenblum, reshaped the film to focus on the relationship between Alvy and Annie, turning it into an all-time classic romantic comedy.
I think I'm going to get better as I get older. You know, I think I'm going to be the balding, virile type, you know, as opposed to, say, the distinguished gray.
Okay. The process of discovery through editing is essential to the show about the show and to video essays like this.
Max, you realize how immoral this all is?
Max, I got a hit series.
Yeah, I know, but you're adding fake laughs.
They both take an array of footage from all sorts of sources, time frames, and ideas and reshape it into something that tells a story or conveys an argument. Or at least I hope so.
The medium enters in as a condition of the art form itself.
And maybe in that way I am a little like Kaveh. So I wondered if I could make something more like Kaveh's work for this video essay, embracing radical honesty and self-representation to arrive at deeper truths. Okay, so I had always planned to use this segment as a way to discuss the challenges of separating the art from the artist, how to tackle media made by someone who has done questionable or outright unethical acts. And I talked this over with my friend Kevin. So there's this question about representing Woody Allen on screen in this day and age.
Yeah.
What do you think? Does that make sense videographically? Is that
Showing
comfortable?
the film work, or
Yeah, show a clip from Annie Hall, because my point is, like, the beginning of Annie Hall, when he's talking directly to the camera, is a lot like what we see with Cave.
Yes, I mean, this is the classic art and the artist separation.
Right, how do you deal with the art of monstrous men? I'm going to talk about that, and there's actually a great essay and book by Claire Dederer about this.
That's a great title. Is it called The Art of Monstrous Men?
The book is called Monsters, and the essay is called The Art of, What Do We Do with the Art of Monstrous Men? So here's this question. What does it mean for us to be recreating a scene from Annie Hall?
I like that. There's a lot there in the preposition of, the art of, as in the art that they've made and that they're producing, and then the art of managing them, handling them, working around them.
And I think that one of the really challenging parts, showing Woody Allen, feels a little bit of a sort of stretch. So to be clear, I'm not accusing Cave of crimes anywhere approaching the allegations against Woody Allen. But the show does document some questionable behavior. Cave is in his mid-50s at the start of the show, and we see him enter into a sexual relationship with Ashley, who is in her mid-20s, and introduce herself to him as a massive fan.
And then I got an email from another fan who told me,
I was watching your TV show, and it made me realize that I was being dishonest with someone that I care very much about.
So when we filmed Ashley, one of the things she said was,
I love you.
and I liked hearing this, and so I wanted her to say it again.
And I love you, and then I love you, and then I love you.
And I noticed that I started having like an erection while she was saying,
I love you.
So how old are you?
I'm 24.
I'm like, oh my God, you're 24? And I'm like, oh, what am I doing? This is crazy. Can I have sex with her? I don't know. I guess I can legally, but it feels weird.
While this does not resemble the power relationship between Woody Allen and his unofficial stepdaughter and now wife, Soon Yi, it is a similar age difference. I'm in my mid-50s with daughters in their early 20s, so I cannot help but perceive that particular age gap as unthinkable for romance, viewing it solely through the lens of a parent or maybe as a professor teaching students of that age. While Cave's relationship with Ashley is presented as consensual, at least until she decides to leave the show and he keeps portraying her as a character.
Ashley also quit the show. It's a long story, which I'll tell later, but I had to find an actress to replace her, and I found this actress that looks kind of like her, I thought, named Zia Anger. So Zia's gonna be playing Ashley, except that Zia didn't want to do the makeout scenes, so whenever there's a makeout scene, it's gonna be played by this woman named Farah. So it's going to switch between Ashley, Zia, and Farah.
My own skepticism about these power imbalances inherent in such an age gap add to the parallels between Cave and Woody and make me distrust them both.
I guess I can, legally, but it feels weird.
And we might ask, who am I to judge other people's relationships? But such behaviors are at the very heart of the show. So even if I don't judge Cave's real actions, we are forced to think about and judge what he does as a character. And given his claims to radical honesty, the boundary between Cave's character and true self is invisible.
All I know is that I feel compelled to be honest about these things. They see other people from the other sex as potential sex objects or potential sex partners.
And yet, I still love much about both of their works. Annie Hall remains one of my favorite films, despite Woody's monstrousness. And I'm not alone. Claire Dederer has written a great book probing the key question of what do we do with the art of monstrous men.
I took the fucking of Soon Yi as a terrible betrayal of me personally. In other words, my response wasn't logical. It was emotional. Now, all these years later, I wanted to revisit Woody Allen, see if the work had been fatally disrupted. Annie Hall was, it turned out, still good. Annie Hall is the greatest comic film of the 20th century. To watch Annie Hall is to feel, just for a moment, that one belongs to the human race. As I said, Allen wanted to give Annie Hall an alternative title, Anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. My own ability to experience pleasure, specifically pleasure arising from consuming art, was imperiled all the time. By depression, by jadedness, by distraction. And now I was finding I must also take into account biography. an artist's biography as a disruptor of my own pleasure.
Dieter's words leave me committed to two principles that coexist in tension. We cannot ignore an artist's ethical breaches, particularly when their art has overt autobiographical dimensions, and we cannot deny the power and pleasures of great art, despite the morals of the artist. So I feel justified to engage with, teach, analyze, and enjoy the works of both Woody Allen and Kaveh Zahidi, while still foregrounding and grappling with the ethical questions raised by their works and their actions. But engaging with these works and creators videographically feels different, particularly via the playful and performative approach that I take in this series. What does it mean to present myself like Woody Allen in 2025 and celebrate one of his films? My impulse here is to embrace humor and play, but how can this coexist with Allen's monstrosity? And does playing with both Allen and Zahidi's modes of presentation undercut my critique of their behaviors? It could appear that by imitating Allen and Zahidi, I'm identifying or empathizing with them, but that reminds me of something I said in Chapter 3. Empathy. Okay, you haven't seen that episode yet, so keep watching and hopefully it'll make sense. By putting myself in these videos and imitating Zahidi and Allen's performances, I see myself closing the critical distance between me and my object of analysis, while embracing the reflexivity inherent in these works. What does it mean for us to be recreating a scene from Annie Hall? The process of performatively mimicking these figures has made me feel even more removed from them, rather than increasing my identification. And still, I worry that playing these people makes it feel like I'm validating or rehabilitating them, rather than positioning myself in relation to their work. And after working on this material for many months, I've accepted that lack of clarity. I feel that my process of working through these issues is the whole point of this video essay series. Everyone is going to have their own boundaries, whether in terms of ethics, comfort, or taste, and I appreciate my friend for calling my attention to those boundaries and forcing me to grapple with them here in Chapter 2.5. So, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay.